I'm more precious. My happiness is more precious. And then that leads to attachment to I. So the attachment to the I is after the I is seen as more precious. Then you attach, craving. And then you have mine as more important. Therefore, attachment to mine. And from there, everything else. Attached to this person, disliking that person, it all arises from that. Everything arises from that. That's where it starts, with the I. Right? Okay, so this is what's described in those paragraphs here on page 61. How this then gives rise, how this misperception leads to an improper attitude, giving more importance to something, exaggerating the importance of the I, then becoming attached to it, and then all the other afflictions with regard to not just the I, but everything else. Anger, jealousy, arrogance, all that. So this is something you need to use your own experience. It's the only way to understand it. Only way to understand it. So, the best time is when you suffer. When you have a problem. Okay, which affliction is part of my worry right now? What is it? And definitely get to recognize your attachment to the I. Very helpful. Right? First we need to recognize how attached we are to I and my happiness. Anything that's good for the I, how attached we are. And then we can slowly trace it back to our misperception of the I. Okay? Because that's the only way we can really deal with our problems and difficulties, by looking at the root. But it's not enough to just look outwards in the book. How does it describe attachment? No. It just gives us, I see these description a little bit like a surgeon. You know, like when a surgeon, when you learn to become a surgeon, and then there are pictures of the heart and there are pictures of the different organs, and first you learn about them until you yourself open up someone and you see it firsthand. And then you really learn. So those are just kind of outlines, they're just kind of rough descriptions that help you to recognize it when it arises in your own mind. Okay?
Every suffering can be linked to a specific affliction?
Absolutely. Every suffering, can be linked, but of course it may go back as a result of a previous life, so we don't know exactly what that affliction is. But even if right now we suffer because of the suffering, like for example, we experience disease, we experience a physical problem. That is a result of the past or the affliction. We can't really trace that back. But then we feel depressed about it and we're unhappy. We can also look at a specific attachment or a specific kind of affliction here that gave rise to that. I mean, jealousy is a good example. We're usually unhappy when we're jealous, right? So to check, where's my unhappiness come from? Where does my worry come from? There's usually an affliction even in that moment. Because if we didn't have afflictions, we could still experience the results of the past, but there wouldn't be a mental suffering any longer. The physical suffering is actually not bad. It's not that bad. It's really, we can totally bear that. So there may still be physical sickness, but we're totally happy. So really, it's just what we ordinarily call a suffering, but the person wouldn't really be depressed or anxious about it at all. It'll all be gone. So the reason that when we experience a problem, we also suffer right now, even in this moment, there's an affliction. There's definitely attachment to the I. Right? Does that make sense? All right. Okay. Anyway. Yes, please.
I wouldn't take care of myself first and have priority to my own survival, then I will go out and feed the hungry animal.
Yes, that's wrong. Very good. Very good. So on one hand, we talk about attachment towards the I would be an antidote to that, to just kind of neglect ourselves? No. Right? This is not saying, okay, what you dressed right now is the opposite of selfishness, love, and compassion towards others. So in other words, if I want others to be happy, should I just neglect myself and feed myself to the lions? Well, let's just get one meal. I could do much more with this precious body, right? Instead of feeding myself to the lions, I could go out and work hard and buy vegetarian lion food. I'm just kidding. Okay, maybe even non-vegetarian lime. Oh, that's kind of seasoned. But you see, the point is, the point is here. Like we should not. I mean, I haven't really mentioned love and compassion as much, but it is necessary from a Buddhist point of view to preserve our body if, instead of just working for our own benefit, we focus on others' happiness, seeing our own happiness as equally important as ourselves, as our own happiness, and even as more important because others outnumber us, well, then we need a healthy body. So even better reason to be healthy and be strong. But you do it for others. Right? It's important to look after this body. It's like a mother. I think the example of the mother works best. If you have 10 children, you want to be healthy. I mean, even with just having one child, you want to be healthy. But if you have more than one child, I mean, you need to be even stronger, even more work. So you need to be strong for the sake of your children. So this kind of reflects, I think, the love of a bodhisattva. The closest we have in everyday life is the love of parents. I mean, they keep, like a mother who has cancer, her main worry is like, oh my God, my children. They lose their mother. That's her first thought. And so she would get better, mainly possibly in order to be able to look after her children. Her own well-being is secondary. So this is like a bodhisattva's attitude, right? So you would still look after your body. Very good reason to look after your body. But not that you're Miss Healthy and Miss Israel or Mr. Israel or something. No. To be able to benefit others most effectively. And there are cases when bodhisattvas have fed their body to the lions. Right? It happened. But then the thing is, like, you're reborn. So are they. Right? That's true. Yeah. So, I mean, but they didn't kill anyone. They've been given the meat, so it's okay. Anyway, but I don't think it's encouraged to feed your body to the lions. Actually, it's not encouraged at all. Not a good thing. But you're not supposed to you're not supposed to sacrifice your body until you've realized reality directly. Until you've realized emptiness directly. Because then there's no longer pain and there's no regret. Because the problem is that last moment, when it's too late, oops, that was a mistake, I shouldn't have done that. Too late. So then regret, there's no problem with regretting a negative action. Never regret a positive action. So if you've offered too much money, don't regret it, because not only the money's gone, the virtue is gone. So double loss. Yeah. So the virtue is also gone. Okay. Anyway. So the causes of afflictions, there's like a whole explanation here. The causes of afflictions, well, the basis. So the basis that is given here is, the basis refers to the seeds. We have the potential, the tendencies of afflictions. They are one of the causes of the afflictions, having the tendencies. Having the tendency to get angry, having the tendency to have desire, etc. Then on page 64, there's a whole explanation, but because the formatting is all a little bit all over the place, it's not useful. So you can try and read it, but it's not that helpful. I don't think the chart is clear enough, so you may just ignore it for the time being. It's not that important anyway, but it just explains these tendencies a little bit. So the basis, that is a cause for the afflictions, the tendencies. The object refers to the object of the afflictions. So it is true that certain objects may create anger in our continuum, whereas certain objects will create jealousy and a desire and so forth. So that is true. Those objects do play a part. But usually we see those as the main kind of causes. We see them as the causes for our suffering. In the case of anger, we see them as the causes of our happiness in the case of attachment, but they're just cooperative conditions, right? But still, they do serve as a cause. So, and therefore, this explains why it is seen as a temporary measure to keep away from the object. It's not a solution to overcoming afflictions to just stay away. But, for example, the lifestyle of monks and nuns is explained by the fact that also certain objects can give rise to afflictions. And avoiding those objects is a temporary solution until one generates enough strength of mind that no matter whether the objects are around or not, one will not be tempted. So this would explain why monks and nuns stay in a kind of isolated or in a certain way where they avoid certain activities, which according and this is just something very personal, as I mentioned yesterday, that in my case, for example, I feel being celibate, I'm able to control my attachment better. It's just not an option, right? It's not an option. So therefore, I don't have to deal with certain attachments, which other people, if they have a relationship, just don't have to deal with it. I mean, honestly, if you're married, you're also kind of celibate. You can only be with one person. It's a type of celibacy. 7 billion people in this world, you can't have a relationship with. So in a way, it's also not that easy. Can only be with one person. So I don't think it's, I mean, actually, this is not what I came up with. I have a friend who is in a relationship. She once said that to me, and I thought, that's so true. You know, you still need to have a degree of ethical conduct, of course, of discipline. So it's just, you can only be with this one person. It's kind of has some similarity with being a monk or a nun. In a perfect world. Yes, in a perfect world, of course, if you're trying to be faithful. And hope that your partner does too. Okay. But the point is here, you're trying avoid. So what do? You avoid the object of your desire. If you want to be a faithful partner, you're not going to go out and visit a website, I don't know, www.findanotherpartner.com or whatever, or medicine, what is it called? This website, anyway. Never mind. So, therefore, you avoid these distractions, okay, temporarily, until you're not tempted any longer, and it doesn't matter whether you encounter them or not. Distractions are also a cause. So the tendencies we have are a cause of afflictions. The objects that give rise to the afflictions are a cause, and then there are distractions. So distractions are certain activities that can bring forth negative emotions. So gambling, drinking, taking drugs, excessive partying, and so forth. So there's nothing wrong with them themselves. I mean, of course, taking drugs, yes, but excessive partying, but it does bring forth certain afflictions. So certain distractions can have kind of this kind of influence on the mind, because they agitate and distract the mind, and it can be extremely detrimental to any kind of spiritual practice. Okay, so unless we have some understanding of selflessness, our spiritual resolve is easily swayed by external distractions. Yes?
Excuse me for a lapse of knowledge.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember if you get rid of all the afflictions first, or get selflessness first, because all of a sudden it seems to me that it's exactly the same. Like if you reach selflessness,
if you understand,
you need to go against all the afflictions.
Yeah. Varda's got a good point here. What comes first? Eliminating the afflictions?
I think I know it, but I can't remember. So one of them has to go away.
Okay, it's a good point. She's addressing something important here. What do you deal with first? Deal with your anger, attachment, jealousy, or just totally ignore them and right away try to understand selflessness? If you understand selflessness, as she said, then those afflictions won't arise anyway. So why do we practice patience? Why do we become monks and nuns? Just understand selflessness and then just party, basically, right? Why do we become? So why do we have to practice patience? Why would we practice love and compassion and all that? We just eliminate the misperception of reality, and then they arise naturally. So why?
Our possibility to meditate and to think very strongly and to be able to do all these things will not be there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way. But if we reduce them slowly, then we develop all the qualities.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Also, they say that ethically, if you're not having an ethical conduct, you cannot meditate quietly.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
But it's true that if you realize selflessness, you don't have afflictions anymore.
Absolutely true.
In order to get there.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yes. I think, Varda, I've been thinking about this exact point, like trying to find a good analogy for that. It's almost like in order to really get a better understanding of selflessness, our stronger afflictions They don't even allow us to understand selflessness. So unless we reduce them, there is no way we can actually... So I'm trying to find an example like a worldly kind of example. They're almost like huge rocks that are in the way. So without removing or reducing these huge kind of obstacles, we couldn't sit down to meditate, and we couldn't even, like Leora and Nissim said, Leora, right? Yeah. Leora and Nissim said, the idea that when we engage in a lot of negative conduct, our mind will be all over the place. If our mind is all over the place, we don't have the concentration to consider reality, to consider selflessness. So therefore, to make the mind just calmer, we need to reduce the afflictions to some degree. And then when the mind is calm enough, we can actually think of what is reality and understand. And then we eliminate, not just temporarily the course of affliction, but totally eliminate all afflictions. Yeah.
Only because we are not capable of reaching selflessness.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Because the strong afflictions, the strong afflictions are like a total, like an obstacle to actually understanding selflessness. They enhance our sense of self. So when they arise, our sense of self is stronger. So how can we understand selflessness where we have a strong sense of self? So by forcing, and this is something one of my teachers once explained, when we practice love, compassion, generosity initially, it's totally artificial. It's a bit like putting on a space suit. Have you ever put on a space suit? When was the last time you wore? No, I'm kidding. You walk very awkwardly. It looks very awkward. You cannot walk really elegantly and gracefully, right? That's right now what love and compassion, they're actually against our sense of self-grasping. So, but we pretend, kind of like, not pretending is not a good word, but we do engage, we force ourselves because we can see the benefits, we engage in it. It's much harder than being angry, it takes much more effort, but it allows our mind, it reduces the sense of self because we give to others and we're still happy. We give to others and we're happier than usual. And it allows us to understand there is no threat ignoring the I. And it's much easier. So one of my classmates once said, he's a Rinpoche, Matu Rinpoche, he once said, the thing is about compassion, it allows you to see that the chair is empty. So you're sitting on the chair, and you're getting up to help others. And when you check, there was no one in the first place. So you forgot about yourself. You worked there for others, and that allows you to understand there was nothing there first. Right? I really love this. You see that the chair is empty, has always been empty, by reaching out to others. Yeah. So all this, it's artificial, but it's already acting like a selfless person, and that allows us to understand. Well, the self actually has never been there.
Also, by practicing like unconditioned love,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot practice it with yourself.
Exactly. Unconditioned love means you do not look for any reward. And if there's no sense of an award, well, you forget about yourself. And you still exist. And then it's like, I can exist without there being a self. I'm still there, but that self is just not there. And there's no fear. We have fear of selflessness. There's actually a natural sense of fear. So practicing love and compassion can get rid of that because you forget about yourself and you're still there. We have the fear of total annihilation, but that's impossible. Okay? Does this make sense? You're thinking very hard, I can see.
Yeah. It's like you want to get like to the roof, and you say, well, from the roof I can see everything, so why not just get to the roof? But it's like you need to climb to get there. So this is like you said yesterday, the method, the explicit, the implicit.
Okay.
So you understand that in order to see everything, you need to be up there, to see the view of the city or something like on top of the Eiffel Tower. But you need to climb there.
Pardon? So she's saying like you have to climb on the roof. You have to reach a spot where you can see ideally. So I think the example she uses is like removing the coarser kind of anger, kind of weakening the coarser anger, coarser attachment, and replacing those states of mind with love and compassion, it's a bit like climbing on the roof and get a vaster view of reality. This is very interesting what you just said, because actually there's a very interesting tendency when we're grasping onto the self. The more we grasp onto the self, the more narrow-minded we are. Have you ever noticed? I. And suddenly, everything else disappears. We don't see others any longer. Only our problem. We don't see other problems. My problem. I. There's this narrow-mindedness. Whereas the more you let go of that narrow-minded, the more love you have, the more you go, it's like your mind, like suddenly your mind can expand. So for me, this is a great explanation when we say, we're just right now one person. We're just this I here. A Buddha is all pervasive. A Buddha can emanate according to what people need. There's this kind of reaching out. Why? Because it's the opposite movement. I is a narrow-mindedness. Others is like this reaching out. You become vaster. And you can notice, people who are very self-centered. And usually we don't notice it when we are very self-centered. We need to see other people and see how narrow-minded they are. There's like, I, me, and my problem. They don't see other people. They have great trouble relating to others because they're so obsessed with their own problems. Whereas there are people who are very perceptive. I don't know, you sometimes meet people who are very perceptive, very seeing other people. There's like, wow, how did they figure out this? You hear them say that and then you understand, oh, that's really true. And usually they're people who are not very self-obsessed. So wisdom and knowledge comes from this movement, reaching out, letting go of that sense of I. Yes, Nissim?
I think the metaphor, just my dancing palm once again.
Uh-huh.
Now when you explain it, I understand it better.
Mm-hmm.
That you said that we are like a lake, our consciousness is like a lake. It's very murky and with winds and small waves.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly we relax all the inflicted emotion. The water comes down and the sand goes down. And then the water is very, very still.
Very clear.
And then you can look about, she explained it like this.
Mm-hmm.
I think you talked about the ego. I don't remember exactly what you said.
Mm-hmm.
But the self.
Mm-hmm.
She think you see the self under the water like a fish.
Mm-hmm.
You concentrate on it.
Yes, this is just a different analogy. This is a different type of analogy here. Basically saying settling the mind. I mean, the afflictions, our self-grasping, all the afflictions that arise from it, like Asanga said, they unsettle the mind. The lake of our mind is like dusty and dirty, and there's the narrow-minded aspect, but there's also that dirt. There's this not being able to see things clearly. And when those settle, you can see things clearly. So the lake becomes still. So the sense of expansion doesn't come in that example, but nonetheless, the sense of stillness and really perceiving things for what they are. Yes, absolutely. It's just another kind of way of looking at it.
It's not just that. I remember
Uh-huh.
what you said in the first course of Bodhicitta, that you practice compassion, then wisdom rises.
Uh-huh.
Practice wisdom, compassion
True.
rises.
Yeah.
So they are like
They're assisting.
So you need both of them.
Yeah.
Not just practice wisdom or just
That's also very, very true. So here I've more focused on the wisdom aspect. Like when you focus more on others, then your wisdom, I've actually said both. Yes, I did speak about like you expand your sense for others and your understanding enhances. When your understanding enhances, you have more the ability to extend your love and compassion even further, which then in turn again enhances your love and your wisdom and so forth. Oh yes, so they do go hand in hand. One assists the other. Okay? All right. Anyway, so going back to this here, so distractions are another cause for the afflictions. Mistaken explanations are also a cause for our afflictions. So a mistaken explanation here means adverse teachings, harmful books, certain movies, video games, like a lot of influences that can influence us in a negative way, and they can lead to afflictions which well, in other words, when we get influenced by those movies and video games, etc., they distort our sense of reality and encourage and stimulate us to engage in non-virtuous actions. So again, they can become a cause. Habituation is a problem. Okay, so not only do we have the tendency to become angry, but we have a habit possibly to get angry and a habit to be attached and so forth. And then lastly, there's wrong mental engagement, which refers to just imputing phenomena incorrectly, having a misperception of reality. So it comes down to that. So those are just different causes that would give rise to 6 different causes that give rise to the afflictions. Okay, now there's a little bit time to start with karma. So those are just the afflictions, but then of course the afflictions give rise to our actions. Because if there were only the afflictions, it wouldn't be as bad. But then, of course, our emotional states, they make us act. Mentally, initially, and we say things and we do things that are harmful. Okay. Now, there's a brief explanation of contaminated and uncontaminated karma. Never mind right now. It'll be explained again later. But there's just want to say something here with regard to the law of cause and effect. Karma is based on what is called the law of cause and effect. The law of cause and effect is not the same as the law of karma. The law of karma is one aspect of the law of cause and effect. In other words, a law of karma is a type of law of cause and effect. But there is a type of law of cause and effect based on volition, and there is a law of cause and effect not based on volition. So a law of cause and effect not based on volition is the law of cause and effect at work when you have a seed that just naturally grows into a sprout. When you have a seed that naturally grows into a flower. So without anyone planting. Oh, volition. What is volition? Ratzon. Anyway, so when you have a tree just naturally arising, or when you have a seed naturally growing into a seed, well, it's got nothing to do with volition. It just happens. But the law of karma is such that when you have a volition, if you engage in an action volitionally with an intention, right? There's a mental engagement, if you like, a mental kind of volition, then that volitional action leads to certain experiences, mental experiences, again. So that is called the law of karma. So the law of karma means you engage in volitional actions of body, speech, or mind. So if the volition or the intention is to harm someone, then that leads to harmful experiences in the future. If the motivation or the intention is to benefit someone, that leads to... So it's a type of law of cause and effect. It's a type of law, but it's based on volition. Okay? All right. And it's based on dependent arising, of course. Dependence on causes and conditions, which give rise to certain effects. So our different experiences are the results of actions in the past. But of course, not everything is the result of karma. The fact we have a mind, the fact that our mind changes, impermanence, is not a result of our karma. It just is. Okay? But basically, so the idea is that our experiences, our natural kind of experience on a daily basis, they are the result of our actions in the past. And it's very, very complicated. I mean, karma on a very subtle level is very difficult to understand. And so the very subtle kind of facts about karma, we won't be able to understand. Only coarse types we can. But that is also true for the growing of a tree, for example. What are the exact causes of this specific leaf, the specific shape of that leaf? It's so subtle, we don't know. How come two seeds look exactly the same, grow into very different seeds, very different trees, right? One has, 5,060 leaves, and the other one has 6,000 leaves. I mean, same seed, looks the same. But what are the exact causes and conditions that gave rise to? We don't know. That's also very subtle. So likewise, with regard to the exact causes and conditions that give rise to the shape of our face, all the experiences we have, we don't know. This is only something a Buddha could know. Okay? But in general, we can have a rough kind of a coarse understanding of what karma is. We can have some kind of understanding. Well, it's sufficient to know a harmful action leads to a harmful experience. What exactly that means doesn't matter, but that's already enough to be careful. All right, I think that suffices. So I'm four pages behind. No, 8 pages behind. So never mind. I need to be a little faster tomorrow then. But let's leave it at that for now, because we have meditation in about 15 minutes. Okay? And that's dedicate. I've been asked to dedicate, and you can leave your own personal dedication. So, of course, I've never mentioned this before, just assuming that you do know, but whatever positive potential we've created here, positive karma we have created, every session we create positive karma together. So to dedicate that, of course, towards our own enlightenment, and in that way towards the enlightenment of all sentient beings, may all living beings awaken and so forth. But also, of course, on top of that, we may dedicate it towards the well-being of a particular person. So in this case, I've been asked to dedicate, and we'll do this during every session. You're welcome to also add your personal dedications, but to dedicate all our sessions towards Shoshi. Her name is Shoshi, Dani's wife, who is suffering from cancer. So may she be cured from the cancer, and may she feel better, and may there, whatever suffering that creates her disease, may that be removed. Her family find peace and so forth. So let's dedicate it towards this particular person, but of course also towards everyone else we know who suffers, and towards our own enlightenment, our own awakened state, so that we may be able to be of greatest benefit, not just to ourselves, but also others.